enable us to use it for deeds that please you, and keep us humble and pious. My name is Talal Khan. I will be your moderator for today. Thank you for joining us. All great actions start with great intentions. So let's start this session with a couple of intentions for you and for us. One is that each of us leaves today in an hour and a half or an hour a better version of themselves. We found that these conversations have been helpful in the past, not just for students who are in the process of or will be in a few years applying for college, but it's also been helpful for adults. And then the second tension is that, inshallah, we share what we learned today with a few other friends, colleagues, relatives, so that we're helping the community around us. We've got some great panelists today. So we'll start with introductions. We will then follow a few categories for our conversation. We'll start with what does a great applicant look like for a top tier US college in terms of their academics, extracurriculars, their aspirations, their essays. So sort of painting the gold standard. Two, then, how do our panelists think about working and the process to get to that level? And they'll share their experiences. And then three, we'll talk about funding and other aspects and jump into questions and answers. So with that, let's get started.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Danish. I just finished my first year at Yale. I got roped into this like last second. So inshallah, I'll try to help out as much as I can.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Esat. I graduated from the class of 2021 at Harvard University. And although I wasn't the one that roped you in, seeing someone as high quality as yourself, you really gave us no choice. So welcome to the team. And I'm really excited to get to connect with you guys and share my experiences. Just like Brother Talal said, this is because we really care about the community, and the fact that you guys are here means you guys trust us. So I personally really, really appreciate that. Inshallah, feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A. Community involvement and feedback is, I think, crucial for this to be successful.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Omar Khan. I grew up in Metro Detroit in a community called Canton, Michigan. I graduated from Harvard College in 2006 and from high school in 2002. At that time, we didn't have panels like this. There were far fewer Muslim graduates, and for me, none of them had been accessible at the time. So I'm really happy to see so many people who have an interest in the topic and inshallah can benefit from our advice. I add one additional perspective. So I'm a graduate, but I'm also now an alumni interviewer. I've been interviewing high school students for Harvard admission for the last 10 years or so. And I'm also a father. My son is entering third grade. So, we have aspirations for him and we want him to be fulfilled and all that, even when it's silly things like dodgeball and tickling and all the abnormal stuff.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Myra Siddiqui. I actually grew up maybe 10 minutes away from here. I went to Dulles High School just down the street. I went to UPenn for undergrad, where I studied international relations, and then I went to Harvard Law School. So the scope of the panel is college admissions, but if anyone is interested in law as a profession, more than happy to chat afterwards.
Great. So let's get started. So the first question for you all is, you interview candidates, you spending time with them now, you all, Isat and Myra, you spent time a while ago. As you think about your own profile and those who you saw around you, what attributes do you think they possessed because of which they landed where they landed? And this could be in terms of academics at high school, extracurriculars that they followed, or any other general areas. Let's start with Danish.
I think this question is like a little bit hard to answer because every applicant is quite different. But I guess some general parallels between applicants I saw that, like my friends that got into Yale as well, or other people I've seen like been successful in the college application process. Um, I guess there's like a standard of like academics, like you do well in school, you get good grades, that type of thing. You get your SAT score to a certain degree. But after that, I think the general factor that's common between everyone is like just like having a passion about something, um, showing like rigor in something outside of school, like doing your classwork. I guess like speaking for myself, I was in the debate team. I did that a lot during high school. I was involved in different organizations surrounding like international relations, like MAL, UN, that type of thing. And it doesn't have to be anything like the standard. A lot of my application was like my main essay was built around like going to the masjid for Quran class. I come here with like a lot of the people at the front for Quran class, and that was like a significant time commitment on top of everything else I did. So just like displaying to the interviewers like yourself and also to the people that read your application that you're passionate about something and that you're willing to add to the campus experience, and you're able to do that is, I think, the main thing. Academics and all of that, like you want to get good grades, obviously that's a boost, but the one thing that is common amongst everyone is that they're passionate. Yeah, that's about it.
I agree with what he said. In addition to that, I think, one thing that really stood out to me as being interesting is, when I think of these Harvard students before getting to Harvard, it's all about how they're really well-rounded and just great students. And that's true, they are well-rounded, but that's not what got them into Harvard. What got them into Harvard is finding that passion, as Danish said, and then pursuing that passion, finding a leadership role in that passion. So for example, similar to Danish, I was on the debate team, I did soccer, and every single organization I joined, 9th and 10th grade, it was just about, let me join the organization. Do I like it? Do I want to pursue it? Then 10th and 11th grade, you need to start thinking about, how do I get a leadership role? How do I try to improve whatever thing I'm a part of? So almost every single Harvard student I've met was an excellent leader. And that's something that doesn't get talked about very often. It's not always in things like debate. It can be math club, it can be some sort of nonprofit they founded. It doesn't matter. My direct advice to you, if you're thinking of Harvard, or if you're the parent of someone thinking about Harvard, is play to your strengths. Find something you're good at, find something that excites you, and continue to push on it. It might take a while to figure out what that thing is. For me, it took like 2 years, but then once I figured it out, I did not stop pursuing it. And in addition to that, don't wait for leadership opportunities to come to you. You should try to create leadership opportunities. So for example, my high school did not have any sort of like built internship program. But what I did was I just literally called businesses nearby or like government agencies. I was really interested in like government and like political kind of activism. And I would just reach out to them. I just introduced myself. I said, hey, my name is Esat. I go to this high school. I went to Harmony, which is pretty close by if anyone's familiar with it. And I said, I'm really interested in this kind of stuff. I'm guessing no one from my school has reached out to you before because it's only existed for a few years. But if you give me the opportunity, let me demonstrate how passionate I am about this topic to you. Let me demonstrate why I'm worth you giving me a chance. And when you do that, one, it's free labor, right? Like those internships really help the business or whatever organization. And two, you get to learn quite a bit. And three, it looks great for colleges like Harvard and Yale and so on.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything they've said. It's totally true. One thing I would clarify to Danish's point is although you need to be beyond grades, you can't have weak grades. Like weak grades, those just don't show up among people who get accepted. So that is like table stakes. It's the very minimum bar. And then beyond that is everything else that's being mentioned here, making leadership things happen, creating opportunities for yourself. In my example, back in 2000, my friends and I created an MSA at our masjid, at our high school where one didn't exist. We made some things happen that otherwise did not exist. So I would highlight that the grades is just a basic requirement, non-negotiable. And the one small piece of encouragement I would give you is it might sound really big, a lot of the stuff we talk about today. But what is small is getting an A on your next assignment. And if you take it one assignment at a time, one test at a time, and just aim for that excellence, it will add up over time and be nothing but helpful to you.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. Definitely students who go to these types of schools are very well-rounded. Just to give a few more examples of things I did. So I would say generally you want to have, in addition to having excellent grades, a few different extracurriculars. Usually you want to have at least one of the ones that meet every day after school. For me, that was track and cross country. It sounds like for some others it was debate, it could be band, but one of the ones that you have after school practice every day that really does show you're hardworking, you're disciplined, all those things. And then in addition, it's good to also have a couple of other organizations or student groups that you're initially involved with and then you're an officer in. So when I was at Dulles, we had a couple of different volunteering clubs. And so those were things that I became an officer in, I spent a lot of time in. And so that just showed that consistent commitment to that.
Great. So let's jump into a couple of these elements that everyone's talked about, and it would be great if you can share your personal experience. So let's start with grades and academics, which we're establishing is sort of the first step in that journey. What are some tips, practices that you follow or you've seen others follow to improve and then sustain great academics?
Thank you. So, first of all, yeah, grades are a baseline. Just to make that clear, like you need to get good grades. But exactly like we want to reframe it. It's not just about getting good grades. How to get good grades? I personally am not the most organized person. So don't be like me and procrastinate. But a lot of my peers that are better than me in this department, like things I've seen them do is just like schedule things out. You don't know how much time you have in the day until you look at your screen time on your phone. Like during summer, my screen time is like at 5 hours. I assume everyone in high school has like plenty of hours on their phone. Be on your phone, that's completely fine, but like cut down on that so you can get your work done and then like do school, then do whatever you want. It's like basic advice, but if you schedule out things, that's a key factor in getting good grades and like being successful in school. Another thing is also just take advantage of resources. That includes your teachers. Going to tutorials in high school was like a big thing. It's still a thing in college, you know, like you have access to your teachers. They're paid to help you. They want to help you. They became teachers for a reason. So take advantage of that. And that builds a rapport between you and your teachers. An aspect of your grades, kind of tangential, is like you're gonna need letters of recommendation. So if you want to get good grades, you should be talking to your teachers so you can improve. That'll give you some leniency, and also then you're gonna be able to ask them for a letter of recommendation. They're gonna write you a good one. So those are the two main aspects that come on the top of my mind.
Thank you. I agree with what you said, and I'm going to add on to the latter point, which is use the resources available to you. Now, when I got into Harvard, I didn't know a single Harvard student. I didn't know a single Ivy League student. So it was a little bit overwhelming. So I just became a sponge. And becoming a sponge means that you absorb all the things around you. And one thing I noticed is, ordinarily I have my phone, just like I assume most of you do, but I wasn't using it the same way that these Harvard students use it. And the way they use it is, there's this app on your phone, it's called the Calendar app. I barely knew it existed until I got to Harvard, and once I got there, I realized how meticulously people use it. People put the craziest, everything, from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., I'm going to sleep. From 6 to 7, I'm gonna take a shower, go to the gym, and have breakfast. They put everything on there. Now, why is this important? Whenever you know what you need to do, you don't waste mental energy thinking about what do I need to do next. You already know what you need to do. So my advice to you is you don't have to start, trying to track every single minute that you have in the day, but put some of the key things. One good rule of thumb is for every hour of class that you have a particular class, give it 2 hours of studying time outside of that. So if you have AP Human History, let's say 2 hours in the week, 3 hours in the week, give yourself 6 hours to study for it. Now that's kind of like a college rule of thumb. You can maybe say for every 1 hour I have in class, I will spend 1 hour outside of class to study. Figure it out. No one knows your studying habits and how you pick up best and how you study best besides you, but use that app. That's my advice to you. With that, I'm going to give you an example of how I used, I didn't really use the app. I kind of went out of my way to just make it from Excel. I think you guys can see this without the color, unfortunately. So I really could have just used the calendar app on my phone, but do what I say, don't do what I do. So every part that says homework, you can see the time on the y-axis on the right-hand side, 10 a.m. all the way till 10 p.m. Anytime it says homework, that's when I do general homework, any homework assignment I have. Whenever you see any like environmental history of art, that's a specific class that I study for. Now this schedule made my life so much easier. I had already committed to taking difficult classes. I knew it was going to be hard, right? You don't get to Harvard taking the easy path. We can't afford to do that. If you want to go to these colleges, which is entirely possible, you just need to have a pattern. You need to have a routine. Things become so much easier when you have a routine. So if you're earlier on in your kind of high school years, figure out when you learn best. Do I study better in the morning? Do I study better at night? And figure out how you study best. For example, I love watching videos. I love going on YouTube and watching soccer highlights or watching like really interesting documentaries. So the way that I learn is by watching people teach in a way that I understand. They make these really cool like videos where they animate these like Genghis Khan characters and how they like that's what I love. So I encourage you to figure out what works best for you. If you like flashcards, keep studying flashcards. Like I said earlier, play to your strengths. And like Danish said earlier, use the resources that are available at your disposal. And one final thing that I'll say before I pass it on is grades are absolutely important. It is a baseline. But remember that in the United States, the way that college applications work is you have to submit an essay. There's a story. You're not just numbers. You're not just a GPA. Of course, you need to meet certain criteria. But like, for example, in Turkey, where my family's from, you don't submit an essay. You just take a test. If you do well, you go to a good college. If you don't, you are kind of out of luck, right? So in America, you have these internship opportunities. You have an interview. You get to interview with these people. And what they're looking for is someone who can fit in, someone who has a good story. So if you slipped up your first year or second year and you didn't get the best grades, it's not the end of the world. Not everyone at Harvard has perfect grades, guys. Plenty of people have gotten B's and C's. Now, I want to emphasize that you should not aim for that. But if you did slip up your freshman year, your sophomore year, in your essay, you can talk about how you learned your lesson and now you're doing so much better. It's not the end of the world. Do not be discouraged. The worst thing you can do to yourself is sabotage yourself and reject yourself. So even if you don't think you're going to get into Harvard, apply anyway. Let them say no to you. Don't say no to yourself. Because when I applied, I didn't think I would get in, right? Plenty of people, most people I would say don't think they're going to get in, but you need to let them tell you that. Don't tell yourself that.
That's a lesson for life, right? Like, do not say no to yourself. That's just it right there. I love it. I think all the techniques and stuff that have been shared, those are real. For me, I was going to share my experience finding the things that work for me, right? When I was studying for the MCAT during college, I found one thing that helped me with the huge volume was having a poster board on my wall where I would write down all these formulas, and seeing them frequently helped me memorize them. I remember as well, this is early days, before YouTube even, video content was very useful to me. Seeing animations really was helpful for me, so I was visual in that sense. Other people I knew, they would love listening to things, and listening to it once, twice, 3 times would be helpful for them. Figure out what works for you, and you can get to wherever it is you want to go. Scheduling, super important. I started that when I was in 6th grade, and it's just a part of me. Even today, if you look at my calendar, it is scheduled, and for tomorrow as well, inshallah. The last thing that I would add is scheduling. Yeah. I don't remember what I would add. Meyer will add.
Okay. I have a couple of study tips, but before that, on the note of don't say no to yourself, that goes for the previous topic, which was extracurriculars. So a lot of times Harvard students have really impressive resumes, like they were class president and they were all these different things. Just if you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to be on the varsity team, or there's no way I'll be president of this club, just go for it. The things that you don't see on the application are all the things that we all applied for and did not get. No one will ever know your failures. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're really intimidated by the extracurriculars and taking a leadership position, just run. The worst that can happen is you won't get it and no one will remember except for you. And then just a couple of things on studying. So I read somewhere that if you review something like new information within 24 hours of first hearing it, you remember at like I think 50% more. So this is really hard to do, but what's really helpful is after school, if you review your notes from the day, it really does help just keep it in your brain so that when the test comes around, you don't have to cram like it's the first time you're seeing it. So if it's hard to fit that in, maybe if there's a class that you particularly struggle with, maybe just focus on that one class after school every day, read over your notes from class and it'll help. And kind of on a similar vein, cramming is not the best way to study. So if you have a test, start studying in advance. It will be a lot easier if you do 30 minutes, an hour a day, instead of trying to memorize everything the night before. The time you put into study will actually be a total of less time than if you just try to memorize it all the night before.
Myra, you want to continue on extracurriculars and talk a little bit about your experience deciding where you want to double down and then doing well at it and the journey?
Sure. So all of my extracurriculars are kind of funny stories. So people who went to high school with me will remember that I did varsity track and cross country. What they don't know is that in 8th grade, when I first joined track, I was probably the worst person on the entire team. I used to run the 4x4 relay, and I didn't just come in last, I would come in like dead last. Like I was 100 meters behind people, which is a quarter of the race. So I did that in 8th grade. I was really discouraged. I wasn't sure if I should keep doing it. And then I came back the next school year and I used to practice so hard because I didn't want to be embarrassed ever again. And then I ended up running a different event, which was much more suited for my skills. And I ended up being varsity that year. So it really is true. If you're really bad at something in the beginning, don't get discouraged if you keep trying. Sometimes the shame of being really bad at something is actually really good motivation. Similarly, I was class president. That also was almost an accident. We had to sign up for what positions to run for. I signed up for treasurer because no one else was running, and then someone signed up after me. And when I saw that basically I would have a 50% chance of treasurer or president, either way there was one person running against me, I thought, why not run for president? And then I was elected. So, it's okay if you're not super confident. No one knows.
Thank you. There's a couple of themes that I would like to highlight. One is that there's multiple roads to success. Isaat and Omar talked about being incessant and meticulous with their scheduling. Danish started by saying, I'm not organized at all. But I would say, so all that to say, each person will have their own path. But even without asking Danish, I'm pretty sure I can say he spent a lot of time getting good at whatever he got good at, be it studies or outside. His method may have been different, but I'm sure he put in the same amount of time, maybe more than some of the other folks. So the method can be of your own choosing. The effort is not optional. Omar, you want to talk about essays? They've come up and you've read a few in your time.
Essays are very important. The essay is really a very unique part of the application in that, as Isaat said, it allows you to tell your story, and you, even if you're not talking about yourself directly, to share something about yourself. Something that doesn't come across in your transcript of grades, your standardized tests, or even necessarily your selection of extracurriculars. I specifically wrote, I remember waking up one morning during college application time, around Fajr time, and feeling inspired with an idea of what to write. And so I just started typing. I booted up the computer, 'cause it's long time ago. Booted up the computer, and then I started typing. And when I started typing, I ended up writing about reflections on a recent visit to Pakistan after like 15 years of not having gone, right? Or not 15. At the time, it was like 10 years. It was a long time for a high schooler. And so I had gone to Pakistan after many, many years of not going. But in the intervening time, while I was just in the United States, my Muslim identity grew and started to flourish. I was involved in my masjid. We started an MSA at our school. All those good things were happening. When I went to Pakistan, I had certain expectations, and then I met a certain reality. And the distinction between those two, the difference and my reflection on the whole thing is what I wrote about, and I sent that in. It's different than a lot of other things. You know, it wasn't about a particular achievement, but it was a reflection of who I was. It was part of my unique story, and I think they liked it. I mean, I still like that essay. I'm still happy about it. But yeah, it's an important part of your package. It goes hand in hand with all of those letters of recommendation, hand in hand with the transcripts, the extracurricular achievements, and it's just one more way for you to show something unique about yourself, something memorable about yourself to the people who will be making a decision about whether you're in or out.
Do you all want to talk a little bit about essays, what to do, what not to do?
In my opinion, for me at least, the essay was like the looking back was the best part of my application, and I have a lot to say about it because I had a unique experience. When I was showing my essay to different people to like critique or just read and edit, I got a lot of like negative feedback, precisely because it wasn't about like an achievement I've done, but rather something that was like mundane on face value, and just important to me. So what you want to do, you're an interviewer, you've done interviews for like 10 years. A lot of people that read the applications and interview, they can tell if you're being sincere or not. I don't know how they do it, but they can just tell. So you want your essay to just be about things you're thinking about, things that matter to you, because we're all like individuals. We live life 24 hours a day. There's definitely something interesting about you. You definitely have conversations with people all the time. So you want to just be sincere and give your unique perspective. There's plenty of applicants, but you definitely have a unique perspective, right? So whatever is important to you, just write about that and try to be as insightful as possible. Inshallah, it will go well. It doesn't have to be anything like crazy. You don't have to like cure cancer or anything like that. It's like a meme like amongst kids. You have to like cure cancer to get into these schools. You don't have to do that. Just show that you're like, everyone here, inshallah, is intelligent, is insightful, has experiences. Just show that part of yourself, and be authentic, and inshallah, you'll do great. Yeah, the essay is about being sincere, in my opinion, at least. Yeah.
So on the note of essays, so I'm Turkish, as I've mentioned, and Turks are really well known for our kebab. Yes, spicy. That kind of ties to what I was going to say. We make really good dramas. Like if you've seen our soap operas, they are very impressive. I don't watch it myself, but leading up to my application cycle, I watched plenty of those. And the reason why is because I had to manifest every single dramatic fiber of my being onto my essay. Why? Because like we've all been talking about, you need to have a story, right? So, you know, watching dramas, as I do joke about it, but there's a point to that. Watching, if that's the way you want to do it, you can do that. What I also like to do is I love listening to speeches, because I think especially like really good public speakers, they convey a message in ways that connects to people's hearts. And with something as kind of arbitrary as college application process, where there's no real formula, you need to be able to think outside of the box. So if you're thinking of like, okay, how do I actually, I've been working 3-4 years in high school. How do I actually impress the person reading my essay among 70,000 other ones? I would say make yourself as vulnerable as you feel comfortable doing. My essay was incredibly dramatic. It was something that I don't think haven't shared it with my family. Only me and some of my essay reviewers and the college application judges, they know what it's about. And the reason why is because you need to stand out, right? So if your high school experience is going to allow you to stand out, you can talk about your high school achievements and all of that stuff. But if it's something about how you feel or how you see the world or how you think or an experience that's happened to you, don't be scared to talk about it. It's not going to go anywhere. Myra said something really amazing, which is people won't know your failures, right? So I saw a meme. It said my biggest traumas remain between me, my therapist, and the person who reads my college application essay. And I agree with that. Don't be scared to make yourself vulnerable. Talk about what's really important to you, and be proud of it because that's who you are. So yeah, don't be shy from expressing yourself. So I did talk about listening to speeches. Don't reject yourself. And then I think the other things I can bring up as the questions come. Sure.
Okay. So with that, we can start getting into some of the questions that we received. The first one's around funding and scholarship opportunities. Iksat, you wanna-
Sure, I can start with that. Okay, so I will pretend like I'm in your shoes. I'm guessing most of you are in high school or your parents. I didn't realize that there's a difference between public schools and private schools. I didn't realize the kinds of scholarships that are available. Whenever you apply to college, unless your family is very wealthy, you typically rely on financial aid or scholarships. Financial aid is what the school gives you based on either merit-based scholarships or need-based scholarships. So merit-based means you're really good at something, and the school says, hey, we want you to be good at that something on our campus. So we will pay 60% of your total yearly fees if you do that thing, like, for example, athletes, right? Or if you're in ROTC. Like I did ROTC, for example. ROTC is like the military scholarship. I went to Harvard and they said, we'll pay for 90% of your scholarship if you do ROTC on campus. So that's like a merit-based scholarship. A need-based scholarship, typically private universities like the Ivy Leagues, they do that. That is when you say, hey, my family makes below, and I think right now it's like $100,000 a year or something. My family makes below that much. If you want me to go to your school, you're going to have to make college more affordable for me. And if you get into Ivy Leagues, money like need-based scholarships, it won't be a problem. Like focus on getting in. Like what they might do is they'll say, hey, you can study at Harvard instead of paying $75,000 a year, you'll only pay $70,000, but in exchange you have to work a job, which is pretty common. Like I worked 2 jobs during my time at Harvard. One was to be able to get my scholarship, and 2 was to just have some money for textbooks and stuff. I'll just leave it at that. And then afterwards, I will talk about an opportunity. But before I've been talking a lot. I'm going to pass it on to the next person, and then maybe we can come to me at the end.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that was said. That was a good rundown. One thing that a lot of people get wrong in terms of the need-based financial aid is you should be in contact with the financial aid office. Like Yale's endowment is crazy. Like it's like $10 billion or something like crazy like that. They have money. You need to email them, be really annoying, because you're never going to see the person you're emailing. Don't be embarrassed. Just tell them I need this amount of money. You can even give them examples like Columbia's giving me this amount of money. Harvard is like a comparable institution. I really want to go to Harvard, but I'll only be able to go if you match this amount. Be very insistent on that. In terms of scholarship opportunities, I feel like you were about to say something, but just apply to as many things as possible. One thing is that your college application is going to have a lot of parallels to different scholarship applications you're also going to apply to. You're going to be able to reuse a lot of your essays. Obviously, tailor it to the scholarship. Do new essays if it asks, if there's a new prompt. But apply to as many things as possible, because you want to rake in as much money so your parents and you yourself don't have to pay as much. So those are the 2 main things I would suggest.
Tanish, assume I've just landed in the US. My college applications and scholarship applications are due in 3 months. I have no idea where to find these scholarships. I don't want to start on Google. What sources would you recommend people start? Are there websites? Are there apps? Are there specific forums that would give them a good sense of what's out there?
I mean, I think you should start off on Google. Just like Google scholarships nearby. There's different like forums. There's like plenty of people that like live online, like on Reddit and stuff. And then there's like college application stuff. Just ask your friends, ask your counselor. Um, I assume no one's in the situation where they've only been in the United States for 3 months, but ask people, ask us. You can ask us afterwards, like what specific scholarships we applied to. I think Google is your best friend. That's where I found my stuff. Just write scholarships nearby. There's a few notable ones. You can search up like 10 like most prestigious scholarships nationwide. You can search up scholarships in Sugarland in Houston. Like even Agaz like has a scholarship apparently. I didn't know about this, but just apply to stuff. And it's a numbers game, just like college is a numbers game. I applied to a lot of schools. I got into 3 schools. I applied to like more than 10. Apply to as many scholarships. Let them, like as we said, let them say no to you. Don't say no to yourself, and like have like a spreadsheet down where you have your essays, you have general categories, you have the scholarships you're going to apply to, and a lot of it is just going to be like chug and plug, like copy paste your essay, edit it to the word count. So it's just tedious stuff that people are not willing to do. But if you do, inshallah, you're gonna have a advantage over your peers and be able to get money because everyone wants money. Yeah.
I recognize we have 20 minutes left, and I think it's going to be helpful to take questions from the audience. So if anyone has questions, please raise your hand and we'll come to you.
Okay, so speaking of scholarships, I started a scholarship my senior year in college. We have been giving away $250 for each recipient. Next year, inshallah, we're going to be starting to give away $1,000 per recipient. It's called the Bayar Fellowship. Bayar is my last name. This is the website. You can see it on the projector. It's BAYAR Fellowship. You can put that into Google, and this website will come up. The application is really easy. It's just you submit a one-page essay about why public service and finance is important to you, or a way that you've changed your community. And then we review it. Actually, some of the people on this panel have evaluated essays. And what we do is we give you a scholarship. We pair you up with a mentor, someone from Harvard or comparable Ivy Leagues, so that they can give you advice on how to succeed in your schooling or in your career. And then finally, over the summer, I personally, every single day for a week, review the most important professional and academic concepts, such as how to write a resume, how to write a cover letter, how to network, how to interview, that sort of stuff. I highly encourage you to apply. And then I'm happy to talk about this afterwards. But again, it's Bayar Fellowship just Bayar Fellowship, and you can Google that. And then one more thing I want to add before we change the subject. If you're looking for opportunities like scholarships, 3 great ways to do that. He mentioned counselors. I will emphasize that. Like whenever, as a scholarship founder, the way that I get the word out is reaching out to counselors. So go bother your counselors. Number 2, Google scholarships.com. There are like so many different scholarships. Just literally search up scholarships for Muslims in high school or scholarships for Pakistani Americans in Texas. Like things will come up. And the final thing is you guys all go to, if you go to like public private schools, basically if you're not homeschooled, you will have an alumni base. You can reach out to those guys through LinkedIn, or you can reach out via your counselors or people at your school. Those people have experiences and they can mentor you. Everyone you see on this panel, I've bothered them to mentor me. And I think that one of the reasons why I'm able to be here and give you guys advice is because people take the time to give you advice. People are generally very kind and very helpful. So don't be scared to ask people for advice.
Questions from the audience? Do you want to come over and ask here?
We also have a wireless. We can give
So, what is your opinion on taking more APs within one of your high school years? And if so, how to push forward to trying to do more APs, even though you do not meet the prerequisites, for example?
I think it's important to do AP classes, right? But you have to know yourself and know your limits a little bit, and balance out the load of work from the APs versus the grades that you will likely get if you're stretched too thin. So I myself was careful, and I selected a handful of APs any given year. One thing to add is there was, for me, one specific year where I had like an advanced biology class that was not AP bio, but I felt strong enough about the material that over spring break I grabbed an AP bio study book to test prep for the AP exam. I did practice exams, covered the material, and at the end of spring break or 1 or 2 weeks later, I took the AP test and did well on it. So there are ways to get credit for AP stuff, like for college purposes, without having taken the classes. So you can take the test without taking the classes.
Okay, so what you see here, this is my advice. This is stuff we cover in the fellowship. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. This is a basic profile that I think makes someone successful. It's the routine, or the, I guess, schedule, if you will, that I followed. It's a balance of taking as many APs as you possibly can and also getting good grades on them. But what Omar just said is amazing advice. So I would also highlight that for sure. And I also want to mention one other thing, which is you want to take APs, but you don't want to take it to the point where you start getting bad grades, right? Like, don't push yourself to where your GPA starts to hurt. And also kind of think about, if you can, do I want to stay in state? Like, do I want to go to school in Texas, or do I want to go out of state? Because if you go to Harvard, your AP classes, as far as I know, most of them will not count. But if you stay in Texas, then you can transfer those credits, since APs are considered college classes. You can transfer those credits so that you don't have to take as many classes in college, so you can save some time and money. But even if you do decide to go to Harvard, don't be discouraged to take APs just because they won't count, because they will give you a huge GPA boost, and they will also make you stand out.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
One out of those.
So, Assalamu alaikum. I have a few questions actually. Couple of them are the essay related, and it's great advice that what you all have said. I've kind of noted that for my kid and whatnot. A few of my friends who have their kids recently graduated and perhaps, they didn't make it into colleges that they wanted. One of the things that they said was that we wish we had hired somebody to help us, not write the essay, but just to guide us and kind of give us good critique. Is that something that you would recommend?
Okay, one thing I will say is you can always ask your English teachers, and you can always ask mentors, like I keep emphasizing that. You can always ask people just to proofread it. I had an internship in DC. That's where I met a lot of college students. When I was writing my essays, I asked a few of them, hey, can you just take a look at it and give me your thoughts? And I also bothered my English teachers to review it. It's very important that people review it. You shouldn't just submit it based on your thoughts.
Yeah, so I wholeheartedly agree, but also in terms, okay, two things. You don't need to pay money or like hire a coach to be able to be successful. But also, if you don't have the means to, because everyone comes from a different financial, like socioeconomic background, there's plenty of like opportunities to get expert tutoring and like coaching for free. Like if you're able to show like your qualifications, I think like there's like multiple foundations like the one that you have founded, where you apply, you get in, and then they pair you with someone that's going to help you throughout the process. And then also, I think some of the best essay like coaching happens from like people that are at these institutions or went there. So you can just literally reach out to kids that got into Yale or Harvard or just any school, like UT Austin, any school from your school. Like your kid is gonna know. Like if someone goes to Clements, I went to Clements, they can reach out to me. I'll read their essay. I think I'll be able to give pretty good advice because I went through the process. So don't be holding yourself to giving money because it's like deep. Like this is like a whole business. Like there's people that
It
charge
is.
like thousands of dollars. You don't want to do that unless you're loaded. I don't know, but I don't think it's necessary. But get people to like help you out definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, like I said, I have a few more questions. One more thing that I wanted to ask as a parent, it's great and it shows the success, mashallah, where you guys have been getting accepted into these colleges and whatnot. But when I read articles, sometimes I get word as a mom that, and I don't even have a kid who graduated high school yet, but I just think the mental stress that you go through at these colleges and the mental health, especially. And I've read few articles where, they have given grades on mental health from kids from these colleges and the stress that they go through. How have you either managed it and survived through that? And would you still put your kids through this?
So I would offer that when I was at Harvard, I found it to be less stressful than high school.
Really?
In high school, I felt the stress of what will be next. How am I going to get the next thing? How will I maximize? Once I got to Harvard, I felt much more comfortable. I was still working extremely hard, but I didn't have like the existential stress that I had felt personally earlier. And one thing I will note is, I had a lot of good friends who went to University of Michigan, which is on par with UT in terms of scale and size and everything. They described for me an environment at Michigan, especially among certain groups of people, like the pre-med students, that was a little more toxic. People might hide each other's notes in a form of competitiveness and worrying about how the curve is going to be. And so let me hide his notes and then he won't win or she won't win. I didn't see anything like that at Harvard. And I think part of that comes down to the way that they grade, the way they understand. Like they know that they have the top students from all of these schools from around the world. So they know that these are all A students, and the differentiation they make in grading is a little more nuanced and modest. That creates an environment that I think is less cutthroat, much more collegial. That was my general feeling. As far as the overall mental health feeling, there are tragic stories, even in our community within the last 10 years, at high schools here in Houston area. There's tragic stories. I think the mental health topic and the pressures people feel need to be addressed early on and at home. Kids need to feel supported and loved without any limitation. It shouldn't be conditional, right? And I think kids need to understand that whether you get an A or not, whether you get in or not, life is long. I have lots of friends from my AP classes in high school. In fact, I would say all of my friends from my AP classes in high school are now doing very, very well in their late 30s. Some of us got into the best schools right out of high school. Others got into the great grad schools right out of college. Others landed a great job. Others wrote a book. Others did a PhD. Others did different things. But by the time we get to the mid-30s, the things that made you an AP student eventually lead to some good success, whether you're lucky early or lucky later. That's a key message that I want everybody to understand, that you don't need to win right away. You don't need to take that pressure on you because there's such an amount of luck in the whole thing. I'll pause
Thank
there.
you. That was a great answer. Thank you. That's all.
My question actually got answered with the slide. So if you could just expand a little bit more on the thumb rule that you may have for how many college applications you should apply for, and how do you really do it? Because you're typically doing it in your junior year, I believe. So you don't have your final GPA on hand from the senior year. So how do you really think through that equation?
Great question. So these are some of the slides that we use in the fellowship, by the way. just to sell it a little bit more. And regardless of whether you get the scholarship or not, you are still welcome to get all the mentorship so people can help you with your essays. And also you get the week-long classes where we talk about things like this. Now, the sister asked a great question about this slide, which is how many or which colleges do I apply to? My rule of thumb, and everyone's is different, is figure out how many schools you want to apply to first. So I had the time and energy, because these essays take time, right? They take a lot of effort, to apply to like 12 schools. Maybe it was like 15. And based on my high school profile, like based on my high school ranking, I knew I would get automatic acceptance to UT Austin and A&M. Now, I don't know if it's still the same, but during my time, if you were like top 7% ranking, you automatically get accepted to UT and A&M. So those were my safety schools. Now, before I go more into detail, I should describe what Dream, On Par, and Safety are. Dream schools are schools which, with your current application profile, you think it would be a dream to go there. So for most people, that's like Harvard, Yale, Stanford. It's got like a application acceptance rate of like 3% or something. It's hard to get in. On Par is kind of like you saying, okay, well, I know I have a pretty decent ACT. Maybe my GPA is not great. My internships are good. So you choose a school that is similarly ranked to your profile. So for everyone, that's different. So I'm not going to throw school names. And safety is schools where you like think, okay, I'm basically, inshallah, guaranteed to get in. So that might be a community college. That might be like an automatic acceptance school. It really, really depends. But if nothing works out, safety is a place where you can kind of like always use a fallback option. So my breakdown is 5-5-5. Some people who are super ambitious might do like 10-3-2 with like 10 Dream, 3 On Par, and then 2 safety. Everyone's is a little bit different.
10-3-2, for sure.
Yeah, don't reject yourself. I keep kind of saying it, but no one knows who you get rejected by, right? Like general rule for internships, for job applications, for internship applications, college applications, just apply. You're not losing anything. These people get, it's their privilege to interview you and to go through your applications. Was that a good answer? Yeah. Okay.
I have a question as well. Someone asking there. Go.
We have room for 2 more questions.
Okay. Well, it was in your previous slide where I have 2 questions. One of them is summer courses. You mentioned that maximize your summer courses. Now, we're in a pretty competitive school, Clements, and what I notice, and I'm kind of not in that school of thought, is kids are taking summer classes. They're not getting an experience, of their youth. I mean, be in activities, volunteer, have fun also. They're like taking so many summer classes, and then they're in high school. They're overloaded there. And I feel like the stress factor that you were mentioning starts in high school, actually. When you're interviewing for a college, are they looking at if you're maximizing on your AP courses over the summer, or what you're doing in the summer, for instance, internship, volunteerism, or other stuff, sports, whatever you're into? How important is the summer courses aspect of it? And that's my question 1. And so I'll let you answer that now.
All right. So on the summer courses, I would say be purposeful. Okay. I took summer courses because I had a plan. Coming out of 8th grade, I had a plan for how I wanted to finish high school. My plan was I wanted to have all A's. I dreamt of getting a full ride scholarship to University of Michigan so that I could grow up one day and be a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Kind of failed at that, but it's okay. That was the plan. The plan succeeded. My strategy for being a good applicant was to do music all 4 years, to do Spanish language all 4 years, to have AP classes, In order to make the schedule work, I needed to take gym class in the summer, which is what I wanted because I didn't want to take showers in school and I didn't want to stink. And I needed to take health class in the summer. And I knew that I should do those early summers so that later summers, when I could drive, when I could work, I would have other options to do other things. So that was all part of a plan. It was purposeful summer activities. And then once those summers were freed up, then I had freedom to do lots of other stuff. I worked part-time during high school. I started my first job at Wendy's, French fries, burgers, all that stuff. And interestingly, my Harvard interviewer, one of his favorite things about me was that I did those kind of jobs. It was different in his view to what he saw with other applicants. He liked that about me. He also liked that I modified my car and changed parts in it to make it faster and noisier, which was a cool thing to do at the time. So yeah, balance is important. Be purposeful about summer stuff. Pressure is going to happen. It's not all about classes. It's about everything you do.
We're at time for Isha Qama. I see a few questions. Some of us will stay back, so you can meet us after namaz and ask us. Thank you.
So are you in school? Yeah. What grade are you in? Oh, okay. Well, so you're like, does that mean you're rising junior or you just finished? I see.
الله أكبر الله أكبر
Well, I mean,
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
استقيموا واعتدلوا سووا صفوفكم keep your lines straight fill in the gaps no spaces in between complete the lines ahead of you الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين
إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين فلاقتحم العقبة وما أدراك ما العقبة فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة أولئك أصحاب الميمنة والذين كفروا بآياتنا هم أصحاب المشأمة عليهم نار مؤصدة الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, between Maghrib to Isha, we had a really good program. The topic of the program was how to get into Ivy League colleges with our STEAM panelists. MashaAllah, Brother Isad. Where's Brother Isad? Thank you. Thank you, Brother Isad. Do you want to say anything? The panelists included Brother Isad, and then we had Brother Talal Khan, who's also here. Thank you so much. And we also had Brother Umar Khan, Brother Umar, and we also had Sister Myra Siddiqui. Thank you for joining us, as well as one of our community. Sister Myra is also one of our community member, mashallah, I didn't know. And also we had Danish, who also joined us. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much for the panelists, for taking out the time and educating the community, inshallah. We hope that our Muslims can follow on the same footsteps, inshallah, and excel in every field that is out there. And that is a beautiful way of da'wah in of itself, when you excel in your profession. And just you carrying your name, Omar, Uthman, Talal, Isad, Danish, is a da'wah in of itself, because it's a Muslim name and people see that, mashallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, and thank you for your time, for being with us today. Inshallah, anytime we can have some more programs in the future, inshallah. Also, after Salatul Isha, we are going to be playing some volleyball. If the brothers want to join us, inshallah, we'll be playing volleyball in the back. Right after the Sunnah prayers, we also have pizza outside. So inshallah, please help yourself with the pizza. We also had a lot of high school freshman college students here as well. Thank you so much, mashallah, for the parents to bring them. After tomorrow, after Salatul Dhuhr, we have a Hajj workshop. For those who are going for Hajj, inshallah, this is going to be a workshop between after Salatul Dhuhr with myself and Imam Ahmad, inshallah, who will be here. So try to join us, inshallah, for the Hajj class tomorrow if you're planning on going for Hajj. One of our community members, Brother Wahab, he's in the hospital. He had a minor stroke. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him shifa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for him. Allahumma shfi mardana marda al-muslimin. Allahumma shfi mardana marda al-muslimin. Allahumma shfi mardana marda al-muslimin. Allahumma shfihi anta shafi la shifa illa shifa'uk shifa la yughadiru saqama. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah feek. Once again, thank you so much on behalf of Sheikh Sayyid and I and Brother Javed and mashallah and all of the management. Barakallah feek. And the brothers and the sisters are here. They'll be outside or in the masjid if you want to ask them individual questions.